All right, so I'd like to unwrap this entire character in this video, so this might run a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and hide my reference here, and then go to UV editing up top. Now, what you can do is select the entire model, right? And notice that we have these as individual chunks, the hair, these different hair pieces. But the smart thing that we did is we did the mirror technique. So we really only have to unwrap half the model and the hair as one piece. So you can see here that with it all selected, I can do L and then Control I and then H, and I can hide everything but that area, then hit Alt H. So even though they're separate pieces, right, I can still treat them as individuals. And the other thing I want you to think about is, as we're going through this, the what's it called? The thing that we want to think about as we're going through this is, are we positioning our pieces inside of here in the same area? Sorry, I had a little bit of a brain fart. So for example, starting with the foot, if I was to hit L on this, right? So I'm going to hit 3 and then L on the foot, right? Control I and then H to hide it. When I'm making this, is this where I'm going to position this is on the floor here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the rationale behind unwrapping is. Anytime there's a plane change, so if we look at this, this is sort of one plane here, this front plane that goes all the way down. It's going to be considered the front plane. You could actually unwrap that trim, but it's not steep enough. So this is one plane change. And then down here is another plane change, right? So what I tend to do is I'm going to hit 2 and then hold Alt, and I'll loop around the edge of where that plane change happens, and I'll right click and I'll hit Mark Seam, and then I'll hit L to select all, and then back in here I'll hit U to unwrap. Actually, let me undo that. What I did is I clicked Mark Sharp and not Mark Seam. That's why it turned green. Now if I go in here and I press U for the unwrap mode, so I want to hit A to select all and then hit U, and you can see it unwrapped the bottom of the foot here, right? That's down here. Another thing you tend to want to do is inside of here, we want to make sure that a couple things that here let's go back to edit mode for a second. Notice that this is very boxy, but this foot here is um, more round, and the reason for that is we still have our subdivision modifier on. So back in object mode here, I'm going to leave mirror on, but I'm actually going to hit apply for subdivision. Now you can see that it smoothed that out, and now when I go back in edit mode, you can see it switched it back. So I suggest that, like in here, if we hit L to highlight all that and I hit U to unwrap, I suggest that you leave that on, because it's going to update automatically, and it makes it so much easier unwrapping something that's lower in subdivisions than higher. But for this one, I've already got it. So this is actually a pretty good unwrap, believe it or not, the way this is sprawled out. And I don't, because if we go to object mode here, these faces are covered inside of here. I actually don't need any of these faces. So I can go to face mode here, hitting 3 and just select these, just to conserve some stuff, and then hit X and then delete that face. Because we don't, any area that's kind of cut. But for now, I'm going to hit L in here, and I'm going to hit S to scale that down and rotate that a little bit by hitting R. And I'm just going to position these down here at the bottom. So just hitting G to move it. Same thing with this guy. Click off, hit L on top of this, and hit R. And then I'll position them all together later once I have it all together, or once I unwrap everything. Man, I am like struggling with this piece today. Here we go. And this is the bottom of the foot. And just hit G to move this down. All right, now I'm going to hit Alt H, and let's move up to the pants. And that's all you really need for the foot. I'm going to hit L to select this leg, Control I, and then H again. Now this is a cylinder, right? This is a cylindrical shape. Now our plane change is here, so I'm going to hit 2 and Alt, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to mark seam there. And up top here, this is also a plane change. Now I really should, and I'll just go ahead and do it, is select these two faces and hit AX and then delete that face, because we don't need that. And with clipping on, if I'm going to hit 1 here, and I move this back and forth, you can see it's got a little bit of a edge there, which is okay. We can always fix that later. So by having a deleted face there, that's a natural seam. So the next thing I'm going to do is on the inside of the leg, you can see I have a subdivision there. I'm going to hold Alt and left click on there. So let's hit Alt Z so you can see that. Now notice it looped all the way around. That's not necessary. So I'm going to hold Control and deselect that. And because I'm going to mark a seam there because, I'm going to hit 2 so you can see that better, because it's a bit hidden. So as we're painting, which really isn't a big issue any longer because of programs like Substance Painter or even the fact that you can paint inside of here, we usually want to hide our seam. So there's that. I'm going to deselect this edge too. So with that, it's going to cut across the bottom. It's going to make this its own face, and it's going to unwrap the top of this leg from this and pulling it out. So I'm going to right click mark seam on that, and then I'm going to hit A. Oops. Let's hit escape here. I'm going to hit A, and then inside of here, I'm going to hit U to unwrap all of it. And you can see here now I have the inside of this leg, right? So I'll hit L. Let's hit 3 to go to face mode, then L. And let's see if this is the top. Yeah, that's the top. So here is our unwrapped leg. Now, what I tend to do is even after I apply everything, just when I have these in different chunks, I'll do one more unwrap of each section, right? So if I hit U on this, you can see that's the bottom of the pants leg. So I'm going to hit S to scale that down. And then let's go ahead and hit G to just move this over here. I'm on a different computer, so that's why I'm having a little bit of trouble on this. All right, so let's go ahead and hit Alt H. I have kind of a different computer setup, and let's move these guys. I can hit LL and then just move this over here. And then let's do the same thing with the coat. Hit L on the coat. Inverse, hide. Now, there's several pieces here, right? So if I hit 2 and I hold Alt here and I click, you can see I've got these different jacket components, right? So I want to detach the sleeve as its own element. And then I also want to think about this plane change down here, right? I am going to leave these faces because I might pull the jacket up. But ideally in my game, he's always going to be at this orthographic 3/4 view. You know what? Let's go ahead and delete it. I know I'm seeming wishy-washy here, right? So here's these guys. Let's see how this looks when I delete that. So I'm going to hit X and then delete that face. And I actually like that. It gives me a little bit sharper of an edge. And so that's going to give me that. And then in here, I think I'm going to, let's see, I like having it right at that, maybe a little bit more. Because this edge here represents the fold of the jacket. So let's see. Let's actually turn off our subdivision for a second so I can see. Yeah, so this is what we're looking at here. This, I'm going to hold Alt and Shift. And we're just going to go all the way around this way. And there's that. And let's turn this back on. Right click, and then I'm going to mark that seam. Now this jacket, we have this place where the neck comes in, or the head. This is also a plane change. So I'm going to Alt Shift that, or Alt click that, and then I'm going to right click, mark a seam for that. So we have that. I'm going to Alt click here, mark a seam in here. And we don't have to run any loops going down the side because we're really unwrapping half. So if we hit A and then we click U in here, you can see did a pretty good job of unwrapping it. Now we do need, let's hit G and move this down. This is a cylinder, and so we do need a edge that runs from these two cuts here so that we can really unfold this. So we got to get this guy in here like that. Let's bring this back on. So I'm going to hit right click. Another trick is if you hit Control and E in here, you can see we can mark seams right inside of here. And then if I press L, make sure you're in face mode on this guy, and then hit U, it unwrapped it. So you can see we have this looking pretty good. This is, let's see, where's the front of the jacket? So this is the front. This and this. Yeah, this is the front. So I'm going to hit L and scale this down. And then just sort of position this down here. Alt H to unhide. So these are our unwrapped bits. And then let's do the tie, right? So I'm going to hit L on that. And actually the tie is pretty simple. So I'll hit L just to select the whole tie and then just hit U to unwrap that. Because the cut is already here, it's halfway. So I can really just unwrap it like this. And I can tell that this is the top, I believe, of my tie. Yeah. And you know what? I was wrong. There is a plane change down here. So the best thing to do is just select this edge, Control E, mark seam, go to face mode, L, and then unwrap. And you can see that gives us a little bit cleaner of an unwrap there. So let's scale this down. And honestly, I'll probably just, I'll find a place to kind of, maybe I'll tuck it in the armpit or something. All right, let's see, what else do we got going on here? So we've got all of these. So we're just working our way up. Let's unwrap the hand. Or actually, let's just go and wrap this collar. So we're here. And that's going to be another easy one because it already has the seam in there. So we can just hit U. There's our collar. Just move this down here. And I'm going to put it roughly where it's going to be, where it would be on this shirt. So I know it's up here. All right, let's put this here. Let's see what else. Oh, the hands. Let's get these hands going. Now, this one I definitely want to hide everything except the hand. Now, what's interesting about the hand is you really want to break it up into fingers. So, for example, if we select this thumb, we want to mark seam there. And anything that's a cylinder, you do it first like that. And this is actually more square shape now that I think about it. So the tip of the thumb, we'll just break that off like this, like we would with a box. So there's the edge of the box. This is the part that flips up. And then we could just throw a seam down there. Same thing here. I'm going to hold Alt and just click on this edge here. It's another box. So I'm Alt shifting to select all that. Right click, mark seam. I'll put the seam down here. And I'm hitting Shift R to redo last action. So Shift R to mark seam there. And for the palm here, because we have a cut here, so this is one seam. We have this thumb, which would be another seam. We really could just select these two edges here and mark a seam. And let's hit U to see how that looks. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So this is the area where the thumb is. This is the, let's see what face this is here. Oh, that's that inside face. So this is the palm, this is the thumb, this is the wrist. And then this right here is one of the fingers. And then this is the thumb. So not bad. So let's go ahead and hit G and then L, 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 and then just move it over here. Come on, G. Let's scale this down and then hit Alt and H to unhide. And I'm going to put these guys by the jacket over here. All right, we're moving really quick. The head is already unwrapped for us, right? So if I hit L and I hit U to unwrap it, you can see it's essentially already unwrapped. But we do have a neck right down here, so I can select these two faces. Hit X to delete those faces in here. We don't need those. And what is this right here? Oh, we didn't move this. So let's go ahead and hit H. And did I not get the fingers? Let's hit L to select all of these different bits. Yeah, it looks like it didn't move. All right, now if I hit H, I can move this down here. Oops. There we go. And then here's the head. And then let's hit U again because we deleted those faces. Oh, it keeps going over there because I am absent-mindedly not selecting both. So I'm going to hit U to unwrap that. Hit R, you can see that's a lot better unwrap. Now the ear shouldn't be squished in there. We really do need to go ahead and go to edit mode and select the faces that make up that ear. Interesting that. I wonder if there's two modifiers. That's weird that it's not taking that into account. Let's select the head by itself. It's kind of interesting. And then we have subdivision and we have mirror. Let's try that again. So let's go to edit mode and let's see if we could turn that off. Yeah, there we go. It was just registering one of the other things. So Control I. So let's go to object mode, Control I, and then hide everything but that face. There we go. Now I can go in there and select this ear. And then we could try that the new hotkey I taught you, which is Control and E, mark seam, and then hit L and then U to unwrap that. Now the ear is going to need a lot more love because it's a box, right? And we talked about like, well, how do you unwrap a box, right? So let's hit L. Come on. Oh, 3 and then L. And then let's hit Control I and let's hide everything but these ears. So with a box, we want the top and the bottoms to flip out, and the same thing with the sides. So how do we do this? Well, I'm going to hit 2, and I'm going to hold Alt and select these two edges. Alt and Shift, select those two because it's running all the way up. Same thing here, selecting those bottom edges. So let's, I know I'm going pretty quickly. So you can see I've selected this, 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 and if I mark seam on that, and I hit U to unwrap this, you can see what it did is it unwrapped it like a box, because that's what this shape is, right? So this edge here, you can see is that edge there. Same thing in here, right? So I know this is a lot, and it takes a little bit of practice to get this right. So sorry I'm going kind of quick. I wanted to get all this in there so we can get back to coding. So I'm going to hit Alt-H to unhide. All right, and then I'm going to turn this back on. So it's looking pretty good. And let's make sure that we have this in there. Now notice that our texturing, right? We did all this cool texturing, and you know, we're going to lose it, and that's okay. I mean, it didn't take long, and we're creating a very simple character. And so let's put this up here on the top now. So I'm going to hit Alt-H, and I'm going to tab out to object mode, and then hit Alt-H here so we can unhide everything. So what we essentially have at this point is, if I go to edit mode, we have everything but, right, so we have the shirt, the jacket, the hand, and the feet, and we have the head, we have the tie, right? There's the tie. So all that we have left is these hair.